Raquel Welch was one of Hollywood's biggest sex symbols, but she was also fiercely independent about her image. During 100 Rifles in 1969, she made a bold choice. She took off her bra before filming certain scenes with Burt Reynolds. But why? A wardrobe issue? A demand from the director? Or was it about Reynolds himself? Her reason says a lot about her instincts as a performer, and it wasn't the only moment that made headlines. The film also featured her infamous shower ambush scene where producers pushed for nudity. Welch refused, and in doing so created a moment Burt Reynolds later called twice as sexy. With its groundbreaking interracial love scene, behind-the-scenes feuds, and off-screen drama, 100 Rifles was anything but an ordinary Western. But before we dig into all that, let's take a closer look at the film, its cast, and what made it such a cult favorite. The film was based on The Californio, a 1966 novel by Robert McLeod, though by the time it made it to the screen, the story had been significantly altered. Set in 1912 in Sonora, Mexico, 100 Rifles follows Arizona lawman Lydecker, played by Jim Brown, who crosses into Mexico in pursuit of bank robber Yaqui Joe, played by Burt Reynolds. Joe has stolen $6,000, not for personal gain, but to buy rifles to help arm the oppressed Yaqui people in their rebellion against the corrupt Mexican general Verdugo, played by Fernando Lamas. Caught in the middle is Sarita, a fiery rebel leader played by Welch, whose hatred for the Mexican authorities fuels her fight. The plot is filled with betrayals, daring rescues, and intense shootouts, culminating in a final explosive battle between the Yaqui rebels and Verdugo's forces. At the time, Jim Brown was already a football legend and was making a name for himself in Hollywood, having starred in The Dirty Dozen just 2 years prior. He was also breaking racial barriers by taking on leading roles traditionally reserved for white actors. In 100 Rifles, his character wasn't originally written as a black man, but when Brown was cast, the script was adjusted, and the romance between his character and Welch's remained, a bold move for 1969. However, the tension between Brown and Welch wasn't just on screen. The two reportedly clashed throughout filming, with Brown later saying he kept his distance to avoid any rumors of impropriety. Welch, for her part, later admitted she found the atmosphere on set to be ambiguous as hell. Burt Reynolds, playing Yaqui Joe, was still an up-and-coming actor at the time, though he had experience playing Native American characters in previous projects. He had a natural charisma that made him a scene stealer, something Welch quickly noticed. She later recalled that after their first scene together, she realized she needed a way to hold her own against his magnetism, so she made the bold decision to ditch her bra before shooting the next scene. Her reasoning? I knew people wouldn't be able to take their eyes off him otherwise. The production of 100 Rifles was no easy feat. Shot in the unforgiving landscape of Almería, Spain, a location popular for westerns due to its resemblance to the American Southwest. The cast and crew endured extreme heat, rugged terrain, and other unexpected challenges. Director Tom Grease was hospitalized with typhus at one point, halting production for several days. Stunts were another issue. Jim Brown was supposed to have a stunt double, but the studio planned to use a white stuntman in blackface, a common practice at the time. Burt Reynolds was outraged, saying, "Those days are gone. You better get a black stuntman here right now." When the studio refused, citing budget constraints, Reynolds paid $500 out of his own pocket to hire a black stuntman. But let's get back to the most talked about moment in the film, Raquel Welch's infamous shower scene. The setup was simple. Sarita, needing to lure a train full of soldiers into a trap, uses her beauty as bait, bathing under a water tower in what can only be described as a Western-style wet t-shirt contest. The soldiers, mesmerized, bring the train to a halt, right before Sarita and the rebels ambush them. The filmmakers saw an opportunity here. They wanted Welch to do the scene completely nude, but she refused. She wasn't against being sexy. She had built a career on it, but she drew the line at full nudity. Her defiance frustrated the production team, but in the end it worked in her favor. As Burt Reynolds later observed, it was twice as sexy the way she did it. Welch's decision not to bare it all was part of a larger pattern in her career. Despite being one of the biggest sex symbols of the 60s and 70s, she never appeared nude in films, even when it became an industry norm. Playboy once approached her for a spread, but she agreed only under the condition that she wouldn't have to be fully nude. "I wasn't going to do something just because people expected it," she later said. And in 100 Rifles, her clothed yet undeniably sultry shower scene ended up being one of the film's most memorable moments. Aside from the on-screen drama, there was plenty of tension off-screen as well. Welch and Reynolds had a major falling out during filming, which carried over into their next film together, Feuds, in 1972. Welch only agreed to star in Feuds if she and Reynolds didn't have to share any scenes. Their feud lasted for years, but interestingly, in 1982, when Welch sued the producers of Cannery Row for wrongful termination, it was Reynolds who testified on her behalf, calling her a true professional despite their personal differences. She won the lawsuit and was awarded $10.8 million. The film also had its fair share of humorous moments on set. While filming a fight scene on the edge of a cliff, Jim Brown admitted to Reynolds that he was nervous about being so close to the drop. Reynolds, ever the comedian, reassured him by saying, "If we fall, the newspapers will say, 'Jim Brown, an unknown actor, died tragically.'" Another surprising moment came when Brown challenged Fernando Lamas to a friendly fistfight, confident he could overpower the older actor. What Brown didn't know was that Lamas was a karate expert. Brown ended up learning that the hard way. Despite its star power and groundbreaking elements, 100 Rifles wasn't a major hit at the box office. It made just under $3.5 million, falling short of its budget. Critics weren't kind either, calling it an over-the-top action film with too many cliches. But in recent years, it has been reevaluated and embraced as a cult classic. It's recognized for its bold choices, particularly its interracial romance, its strong female lead, and its explosive action sequences. Quentin Tarantino once remarked that the film was a wasted opportunity, saying, "How do you mess up a movie starring Jim Brown, Burt Reynolds, and Raquel Welch?" But for many fans, 100 Rifles remains an underrated gem, a film that may not have revolutionized Hollywood, but certainly pushed boundaries. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think about Raquel Welch's decision to keep her clothes on during the shower scene? Do you agree with Burt Reynolds that it was twice as sexy that way? Let us know in the comments.